Hi guys, welcome to Janelle. I'm your host Janelle So, bringing you stories of immigration and representation here on our program every week. And today is a special day as we open a very significant month for us Filipino Americans. It is October, and October, as we know, is Filipino American History Month. And we say history, not heritage. We're going to be explaining that to you in the coming days here on the show. But for now, as we open, we are here at Cafe 86. This is a very special brand for me as well, because not too many of you know, when we were starting to conceptualize SoJannelle, coming from Kababayan, LA, which was my former show, Ginger and her husband James and their brand Cafe 86 was on top of the list to interview. In fact, I think you were my, second interview at that time.
I didn't even know that.
Now you do. But it never came out because that was during the time when we were negotiating what station to put this show in. And so I'm happy that a few years later, we're back here. We are at Cafe 86 here in Artesia, only one of the many branches of this very popular, successful brand. Ginger and James are the husband and wife couple behind it. So together, hello and welcome to SoJannelle.
Thank you for having us.
So I guess congratulations on everything. This year also marks your 10th anniversary of Cafe 86. Yep. So take us back to the very beginning.
Well, in 2014, when we were conceptualizing Cafe 86, and I gotta set the record straight, he had the idea. Oh. So in 2014, he had this idea of starting our own business. He was in tech, but wanted something that was our own. So he said, let's open up a boba shop, because he likes to go to car meets. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you're familiar with a car meet.
Car meet, yes.
So he is part of a car group that they're all AE86 enthusiasts.
I remember that from the interview, yes.
So they're Toyota Corollas from 1986 that they're all obsessed with. So he wanted to open something where he could hang out along with his friends.
Yes, okay.
And we started to dwell into maybe looking into franchises back then. He looked at one, wasn't happy with it, and said, you know what? I think we could start our own concept. Should be easy, he said.
What were you doing at that time?
As a stay-at-home mom, I had two kids.
Okay,
the little ones. They At that time, Jaden and Leah were like 6 and 2.
Oh, yes.
So I was immersed. You know what that's like.
Yes,
Those are the years where you're just talagang eyeballs deep.
Yes. Where did you draw that courage from? Because if you buy a franchise, it's already a set brand. All you need to do is follow the formula normally and then execute, right? Pero starting your own, parang wala pang blueprint. So you have to start it from scratch.
Yeah, well, I mean, so for us, when we started, it wasn't to make money. It was a hobby. It was a passion project. So for us, the courage wasn't really there. If we lost it, we lost it. We understood. Well, I understood. And so it wasn't really we weren't scared so much on gambling, because we knew worst cases we would be able to lose this and we'd be okay losing it.
Yeah, we just have to try.
Yes, exactly. Okay, so what was the first step?
Well, the first step back then, we thought every business started with a business plan.
Yes.
So I think...
Is it not the case anymore?
I don't know, because, well, maybe it is the case. Maybe that's the right way to go about it. So he had this whole draft of a business plan with all the study of the demographics, the area. We worked on it for about a month, about how many cups of boba we should sell in a day to break even. Back then it was Chino, and it sat about 15 people. And we're like, okay, we need to sell this much. We need to make sure 15 people come. And so, you have this conception of how it's gonna work.
Right.
And then you actually go in there and parang, tapon mo na lang yung business plan.
No use the business plan.
Yeah.
Yeah? Because it's all experience.
Well, I mean, the numbers, it's not what we were thinking. It's actually higher.
Good.
Well, when I say higher, I meant cost.
Oh, okay, meaning expenses.
Oh yeah,
right.
Let me give you a funny example.
Okay.
So when we drafted the initial business plan, we had a list of expenses.
Okay.
And part of the expenses were the build out.
Okay.
Which involved going to the city, getting permits. So we go to the city proudly with like the plan and everything, and a drawn up photo of what we wanted the cafe to look like. This is the plan. A drawing. My niece, who was like an interior designer, drafted the whole illustration, walked up to the city, and they're like, honey, you actually have to hire an architect.
Yeah,
So,
right.
Yeah, we didn't know.
Okay,
We didn't know that there was permits for like a fire permit, a sign permit.
All kinds of permits.
Every permit you could think of, you
Yeah.
need to get it.
Right.
So those weren't factored into
Right.
our initial expense because di naman namin alam. Like we had no idea.
Yes.
So you learn those along the way.
What were some of the mistakes that stand out to you aside from that?
There's a lot. So top 3, the first store, I think I spent a lot more money. What I know now from then, I spent a lot more money that I know now I didn't have to.
Like what?
Equipment.
Yeah, equipment, number 1. I mean, back then, my coffee machine was
Yeah, that's the same thing I'm thinking of.
Yeah, $28,000, or I can get now at like 5 to 10.
Yeah.
Yeah. Was it the brand, or was it now you know where to source your equipment?
Well, I think it was trying to figure out what we can use back then. We were just looking at, fancy coffee machines that we really didn't need.
Actually, it was more like, that's the one I really wanted all my life. We have to get it. It's
Right.
our store.
Yeah.
And honestly, we didn't think we'd open a lot more stores. We thought that would be the only one. We'd have this one
Yeah.
fancy machine.
So you wanted to invest
Oh,
everything
yeah.
in there.
Yeah.
Okay, so what? Like spending too much? What's the second one?
Well, I think the second one is, again, with the city, trying to find the right people for the build out, for architectural. I mean, that was big mistakes because I had to go to maybe 2 to 4 people. I think number 3, for me is the biggest mistake is not budgeting the time, because it takes a lot more time doing what we needed to do, whereas I thought it'd just be a couple hours here and there, where I spent like a good portion of my time every day doing it.
You thought it was going to be a side hustle.
That's right.
Right. And yes?
Say it. You thought it was going to be easy.
That was gonna be easy.
And it's not easy.
It's
So
not.
we're going to be talking about that. One thing that I like about you guys is you're also a couple, husband and wife. And they say that it usually doesn't work out when you work with your significant other or your husband or your wife. And I'm already just listening to all the mistakes. To me, it screams stress, stress, stress. And so when you're stressed at work together, how did it affect your marriage, right? We're going to be talking about that when we return on the show. Don't go away. Thank you for sharing your time with us here on SoJannelle. Happy Sunday if you're watching on TFC. Happy Saturday if you're watching on ANC. And happy Monday if you're watching on KXLA Channel 44, a local channel here in Southern California. We are coming to you from Artesia here at Cafe 86. And happy Filipino American History Month, wherever it is that you may be consuming SoJannelleTV. We are also available on iWantTFC on demand, as well as on our social media platforms on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram. Like I mentioned earlier, Cafe 86, a brand that you may already know. How many branches are there now?
So currently we have 62 in the works. We have about 18 to open.
18 open in just 10 years. This is the power couple behind your ube treats, your ubelicious drinks as well, Ginger and James. You know, marriage in itself, raising kids in itself. How old were your kids at that time? 5 and 2, you said? Or 6 and 2?
5 and 2.
5 and 2. It's stressful. In a marriage, it's stressful. You combine 2 different people. It's stressful. And then you add business to the mix. How did it affect, strengthen, weaken your relationship?
Well, it was very hard because I came from a place where I'm still trying to nurture 2 little people, barely in kindergarten, one of them, the other one fully dependent on me.
Yes.
She's 2. And he was on a hustle mindset
Okay.
where we got to make it work.
Yes.
So meeting halfway on that was almost impossible.
Right.
Because I wanted balance, and he would say, "There's no balance here. We got to make it work. You got to put in the time to
Right.
make it work."
Right.
And it was hard. A lot of fighting, a lot of tears. I think it was coming to terms with the fact that we are a team. Because I think for him, it was easy for him to be frustrated and lash out on the closest person to him, which was me.
Yes. Yes.
So it was coming to terms with the fact that we're not enemies. We can't fight with each other because you and I are the only constants in this team. So it took a while.
How long did it take for you guys to realize that? Because I can imagine the fighting. As couples, you fight even without the stresses of business, right?
Yeah. Plus, I go at home, we're together.
Yes.
I show up to work. Oh, guess who's next to me?
Yeah.
This guy.
Yes.
It took about at least 6 years
6
for
years.
us to find the middle ground. And I mean, we still have days where like he's like 120%, and I'm not there.
Right.
And I had to explain to him the concept of, if I get to where you are, nothing's gonna be left
For the kids.
for the kids.
And for the family.
For the family.
Really.
Yeah, it was
right?
very hard. But the fortunate thing about us is we had so much help.
It's a good thing you didn't divorce before the 6th year.
We didn't. Didn't say we didn't try.
So earlier, I talked about the mistakes in the business. What mistakes in the marriage would you say that you learned from that maybe viewers can pick up something from?
I don't know. I don't think it's a mistake. I think it's just been all a learning curve. Like you can't say it's a mistake because you learn. Like I don't know. Like I couldn't pick a certain.
Is there anything that you know now about your marriage as well that maybe you would have maybe influenced your decision, or would you have made different choices?
I don't think so, because I think marriage is an evolution. You learn.
It is.
You kind of evolve. You learn the person. So, I don't think there's like really anything that you can say, hey, I could have done it differently.
Right.
Because we wouldn't be here now if I did. So there's really nothing that I can see in the past that I would change or say that it was a mistake.
Right. What about you, Ginger?
I think we had to go through the motions. I think that's really what it was really going through the motions. And in order for it to work, we needed to really understand each other. And at that point, 2014, how long would have been? We got married in 2001.
Okay.
So in 2014, I would say that's the point where we kind of really just understood the
About
mechanism
13 years.
of each other.
Yes.
Like,
yes.
Working on, because he never really saw me in that element. It was always Ginger the mom.
Okay.
It was never me in the working element. So I think we had to see each other in that light to really understand. But you need to tell them how lucky you are.
Oh yeah.
Yes. Why? Yeah.
Sure.
No, you need to tell them how lucky.
Yeah, very lucky.
Right. So for couples that are watching, what would be an advice? A marriage advice?
I think always just remembering that you're a team. And I think it's realizing that you are the team.
Right.
And there's nothing around it is gonna work unless this team is together.
I love that. James, do you have anything to add? From
I agree.
from a man's perspective, male perspective.
The wife's always right, and she's right. So yeah, I agree.
I love that the wife's always right.
I agree.
Yes. Which brings me to my next question, which we will tackle in the next segment of the show, the menu. Like, how did it start? All these ube goodness, the ube with leche flan, all ube truffle and all that. When we return on the show, don't go away. Guys, you are still watching SoJannelleTV, where we bring you stories of immigration and representation. If you missed the opening earlier, October is a very significant month for us Filipinos because it is Filipino American History Month. And that's why we're opening the show with something that's very close to our Filipino American experience, which is ube. right? We are with the ube queen herself, Ginger and James, her husband. Together, they built Cafe 86. Congratulations, by the way, on 10th anniversary.
Thank you.
Congratulations on 16 stores. Is it just West Coast or all over the U.S.?
We have a store in Chandler, Arizona now. Then we've had
Ah.
Las Vegas since 2017, I think. So West Coast for now, but East Coast expansions will most likely start by next year.
Wow. So 2014, you had this idea, and it's brilliant, by the way, to come up with something ube. You brought ube to the forefront, really. How did that come about?
It was really simple. It was what I really like to eat. And it was me missing all the ube that I had in the Philippines. Because I grew up, did you grow up? You grew up?
Yeah, I grew up in the Philippines.
So you also grew up
Ube
eating
halaya.
halaya in the jar
Yes.
from Good
Baguio.
Shepherd in Baguio.
Yes.
Literally, that's all I looked forward to in Baguio was
The
eating
ube.
a jar of ube halaya,
Right.
taking it back home. It would last us like months in the fridge.
Uh-huh.
And ever since, I mean, we play in the streets every day during the summer. The ice cream man would come with his cariton.
Mhm.
And the first thing I would grab is the little cup of Magnolia ube ice cream with the wooden spoon.
Right. But that's what I said. Loving to eat ube is not the same as creating
Yeah.
ube stuff.
Yeah, but that's really what sparked that intention of let's be different. And the only way I can think of really being different right now is putting something out there that's not normally seen.
Right.
Which was ube. Yeah, we did a lot of research. I mean, ube leche flan, that's a common Filipino dessert combination back home.
Yes.
But it was when my niece and I were starting to like conceptualize, like, well, how else could we do ube? So we would Google
Uh-huh.
like ube desserts.
Mhm.
Because I mean, Google will tell you what's out there.
Yes.
So the first thing I thought of was one of my favorite things to have was a cinnamon roll.
Okay.
I'm like, let's see if it exists.
Ube roll.
It never existed. So
Mhm.
I'm like, then that's what we're gonna make first.
Wow.
So
okay.
ube cinnamon rolls were one of the first things we made at Cafe 86. It's easy to make because we had one store. When I was doing research, it was pretty much what recipes out there contain sweet potato. Because wherever there's a sweet potato,
Or you can
I think
convert
we
it to
could
ube.
convert it to ube.
Ah.
So that's how it started. But then one day, our most popular item is the ube truffle.
Okay, which is this one.
That
Yes.
big brown ball. So ube truffle is an ube cake mixed with coconut cream cheese frosting.
Okay.
And then we dip it first in white chocolate ganache.
Okay.
And then we roll it in crushed Oreos, which is James's favorite thing in the whole wide world, Oreos.
Oreos.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is that.
Yeah, that's
Yes,
the brown
and
cake.
then you see the purple
Yeah,
underneath.
inside.
Okay, I can't wait anymore.
Yeah,
right.
we call
right.
it the gateway ube drug
Mm, because Oreo is
Oreo
yes,
is very American.
yes, yes.
And it doesn't get as Filipino American as an ube truffle, ube with Oreos. That's
Mhm.
like the most Filipino American thing I could think of.
Mm-hmm.
And it became really the gateway because for someone non-Filipino to walk in, that's the first thing they'll point at because they think it's chocolate.
Ginger, this also opened up a lot of opportunities for you. You've been featured on the Food Network, some other shows, Hulu,
Yeah.
right?
For me to grow up watching that and then be scouted to
Be a part of.
Be a part of it.
Yes.
was like probably the most surreal experience that I've ever experienced. Because, yeah, like I was in tears walking in, tears walking out.
Oh, and James, you were content to support from the background.
Oh yeah, I don't like being on TV. Well, so for me, I mean, it's good for business. Right?
The
So-
business mindset.
Yeah, it's good for business, but
Yeah.
yeah, I think, you know, from her, where she's coming from and where she's been, I think it's great. I
Right.
mean, very proud of her.
Aww.
Our roles, we don't say, hey, this is what you're gonna do. It's what we're good at. So it's an evolution of a role,
Right,
right? Like
right.
first we thought we can do this. Well, no, I'm not good at that.
Yeah.
You take over.
Right.
Right. So
So I love that because
Yeah.
then I want to emphasize to the viewers the humility also in a marriage.
You know, for the most part, I think we have we tend to really have a really good team, and it's just figuring out the strengths and weaknesses. And for us, that's what we've been trying to do for the past 23 years of being married. 23.
23 years married, 10 years with Cafe 86,
That's
which
right.
is almost like your third baby, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Fourth, he was the first.
Oh, yeah. But you guys are also lucky because James very, very rarely, seldom gives interviews. This is what? Your second time
Maybe.
being interviewed?
Yeah, I
and the
think
first
so.
time was with me too.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Yay. I'm so happy. Yes. Okay. We will be back with the last segment on the show. Don't go away. Celebrating Filipino American History Month today at Artesia here in California inside Cafe 86. This is actually branch number 2 from couple Ginger and James who started this ube revolution in 2014. It's amazing that you now have 16 stores in just 10 years. This year is their 10th anniversary. Earlier, you talked about the ube truffle.
Yeah.
And this one is ube leche flan. Do
Ube
you
leche
make
flan.
your own? Is it all your
Yeah.
recipe?
Yeah, everything is made in-house. Have a commissary kitchen located in Chino.
Okay. You know, during the pandemic, there were so many people who did side hustles,
Yeah.
doing desserts, doing,
That's right.
pastries, catering, weddings, and all that as soon as it opened out. But not too many of them succeed. What do you think is the secret ingredient? Aside from ube.
James always says you get back as much as you give out. So if you're not focused on it, I think it's not for everyone too.
So for me, what I've seen experience-wise, I think you can do anything you want, but if you're not committed to putting 190%, 200, it's not going to work.
Speaking of time too, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it has to be you're all in or nothing. I mean, there is no balance of, I've seen a lot of people do this and be like, well, I don't want to do it today because I'm tired. I mean, you got to push through it like day in and day out.
Commitment.
Ginger didn't tell you when we started, the first 3 years, we worked 16-hour days, Monday through Sunday.
With kids in
With kids, no vacation. We never took a vacation. Our first vacation, like I told you earlier, was last year in 9 years.
Wow.
And that, so we worked 7 days a week, 3 years straight without any vacations. And if you can do that, I can guarantee you can get it done. I mean, it's just a commitment.
Right. It is a commitment, and also you're right. I mean, you're all in. What are you willing to sacrifice
That's right.
for this? And you've sacrificed a lot, right? Was there ever a point when you said, this is too hard, let's just sell it, let's just stop?
Yesterday.
What happened yesterday?
No, at some point, you kind of look into yourself and say, hey, this is a lot of work, and sometimes you get disheartened because it's just a lot, and there's a lot of things that happen. But then again, you wake up and you're like, no, I can do it again. So
Yeah. There'll be days. Not all days are going to be peachy and shiny and shimmery. Some days we're just frustrated.
What pulls you through those bad days? What gets you going?
If we were to talk about why we're doing what we do, a lot of people would say, of course you're doing it for money. Yeah, I mean, that's the primary. Why would we
Yeah,
open
of
a
course,
business
right,
if not
exactly.
to make money, right?
Yeah.
But if it was only solely for the money, we would have been out a long, long time ago. But there is just so much involved with this business now, and so many things that make it more rewarding other than the money.
Like what?
Community. I think the people we've met throughout the way, the friends we've made, the family we've gained throughout the 10 years is like immeasurable.
Yeah.
So for that alone, we're grateful. And, we'll wake up the next day and be like, yeah, like we were really exhausted the past week and our weekend was full of stuff. And yesterday we volunteered for SIPA and the Hi-Fi Coalition and put together a kamayan for 30 people. And as exhausted as we were, at the end of the day, it was just really, it fills your heart.
Yes.
So more than anything else, it's not just the money. You have to really focus on the bigger picture, on what else is involved. It's really community building. So for that alone, we'll do it again.
Right. So with that said, what does the next 10 years hold for you guys? What are the plans? Is there an exit plan? Is there a plan to sell? Is there a plan are you not going to sell? We're holding on to this, we're building more.
Well, for us, 10 years, I think, I'm retiring in the next 2 years. So.
Whether or not.
Yeah, whether or not she likes it, but Yeah, well, the goal has always been to try to see. I mean, because for our business, we always pivot. We go with what the market tells us. We go with the direction it's pointing us to. So we'll see. We'll see what happens in the next 10 years.
Yeah.
Going back to you get back what you give out, right?
That's right.
So
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
One of the biggest takeaways of this interview, really, because that mentality is not just for community. If you go back to your core as husband and wife, it's the same thing.
Yeah.
It's so together, right? You get back from each other what you give out to each other.
Thank you for everyone's support in the past 10 years. We're really grateful for everyone who's come through the doors and supported Cafe 86. So it really means a lot to us. And we're here because everyone supported us.
There you have it, guys. James and Ginger Dimapasok of Cafe 86. Check them out. One way of celebrating Filipino American History Month all through October is trying out Filipino food, Filipino desserts, and of course, ube is very much Filipino. They have a menu that contains different cakes, pastries with ube, and even drinks with ube. And that's one way of celebrating Filipino American History Month. But of course, we learned a lot today. James and Ginger working together, living together, loving together, so together. If you want more stories of immigration and representation, catch us on our social media channels on YouTube, on Facebook, and on Instagram. Of course, as well as on TV, on ANC, on TFC, and on KXLA Channel 44. I'm your host, Janelle So, and this has been So Janelle.